Many parents I know that they are extremely worried about their children. And in my clinics, I'm getting to see hordes of parents coming over to take some guidance, some help in order to set their children on the right path. Now, the question is again, are our children sort of wayward and that they are unmanageable? Now, there'll be quite a number of youngsters who would be watching my show and they might beg to differ. See, there are many things in this world which are actually controversial or debatable. Now, when I'm talking on this subject, you youngsters don't take it as a personal matter that I'm entering into an area which actually is not true. Now, let me give an example of what sort of problems parents are facing with their children. But mind you, before I proceed further, let's make it a point that I'm not really attacking the teenagers or the youngsters. I'm just going to talk about what are the things you need to take into account, you as youngsters, so that there aren't any problems in your life. Before that, let me tell you something very vital. I tell my clients, especially if they are youngsters and teenagers, and they are having problems of like behavioral issues, anger problems, adjustment issues, academic disinclination, academic decline, and so on and so forth. I tell them when you are going to be a father or a mother, you would realize what it actually means and what sort of a pain the parents or you can go through when your children are going to have problem behaviors. Now let's make it a point very clear that problem behaviors are issues which has to be dealt with. Now if you look into the paper, magazines and even news feeds, you would see that youngsters are facing a whole lot of issues, problems. Starting from, as I mentioned, anger problems, conduct disorders, and unable to handle their own life, leading a very wayward and an indisciplined kind of a life. Now, this word's indiscipline, discipline can actually hit you hard. But mind you, I'm not really attacking you all. I'm just going to talk about things which are going to help you a lot. Now, is it really true that our youngsters are becoming ungovernable or that they are into such a serious domain that the parents are finding it hard to tackle them? Yes, it's true in a certain sense. Now, I'm going to elaborate in a in a fashion which is easily understandable to you all that what are the reasons that why children are facing these sort of issues or parents are facing these sort of problems. One is that with the coming of this consumer culture, that we are open to almost everything. If we have money in our hand, we are splurging, and children are no exception. In our time, we used to take at least around 25 to 30 years of age to earn a little bit of money for our living. But nowadays, young guys, by the age of around 18, 19, they are into big jobs and they are having disposable income for them. So they can spend money, of course, it's their personal choice and right. But I'm getting to see that there is a tendency to overspend and they are buying things needlessly, absolutely rampantly. They're buying things, going around. There isn't any semblance of order in their life. So one point is that this consumer culture actually has done more danger or created more trouble for us, including our kids, than otherwise. The problem with human nature is that unless it is controlled by some external source, there is always a tendency to go astray. This has always been the case. If you take a good look at history, or even the books and the stories and the various kind of talks that you get to hear from your friends and acquaintances, you would see that children are by and large not being able to handle their life. Why is it so? Because there is dearth of understanding about what really ensures a life which can have a strong grounding, a strong root. So the question again is that are we having children who are actually not having strong roots or the strong foundation to get going in life. On the other hand, with the immense pressure which is building up on our system and the society that is creating on us, it's something is making us absolutely chaotic in our life. We are unable to tackle the problems which should be handled in the first place. Why is it so? Because we don't have the know-how. The children do not know exactly. They're clueless. They are misdirected. So, if you come to those points, like what are the reasons that children are facing problems, or at least parents claim that their children are having problematic behavior? One reason is that bad parenting. Mind you, you parents must be listening to me, but bad parenting is an issue which has to be handled downright. Bad parenting, as I often say, that it's one of the most dangerous weapons of mass destruction. Yeah, I'm a little sarcastic, but again, it's true. A bad parenting can actually damage your children's life. So, mind you, be careful about the kind of parenting you do. In simple, good parenting has to be in certain mold, which I'm going to narrate a little bit later. And second point is that why is it so again that children are actually fumbling and they're getting wayward? Is that they have been given too much of freedom. We have been given also freedom in our time when we grew up, but not to this extent. So you have to cut down somewhere. The children must know that this is the boundary and this is the limitations parents have set for myself. And children at the same time have to be self-thinking. You people are growing up. So where does your sanity, that groundedness, that prudence come? They have to be exercised. It's there within you. It's for your own good. If you are in the right track, right direction, it's good for you. So if parents give you the right advices, you might think that they're summonizing. Or if I'm talking about the same issues, you might think that, this man has come out from nowhere and he's talking about big, big things for us to change. Please don't think like that. I'm there for you. I'm there to guide you. That's what my job is. So essentially, children are facing problem because of this rapid social change, the cultural changes, the attitude shifts, and also the parents are to be blamed largely. Now, this is an admixture of various factors which are posing a threat to our kids' life and existence. So, what exactly, as parents or also as kids, you need to ensure in your life that you don't get into trouble? One is that the parents should be very friendly and at the same time get into the administration mold if need be. Administration is something you cannot do without. It has to be there at a time when you feel that it has to be exercised. If you feel that a child is having a problem, you face the problem, discuss the problem threadbare with your child there and then. Don't keep it lying in the closet for months on end. Secondly, is that you should set a boundary for your children at a very early age and right at the beginning when the children are growing up. Secondly, is that the children should be taught self-discipline, how to get going with the elementary discipline which is required in order to be successful in life. Fourthly, the children must be able to understand what is good and what is bad for them. This distinction or this ability to distinguish between good and bad takes you a long way in order to establish in a world which is in doldrums already. Life is not a mean job. It's a difficult task out there. So unless you have those resources and skills adequately inside you, it's going to be a problematic situation for you all. And most importantly, the parents must act as role models. Now, I get a lot of parents who are actually leading a very wayward life themselves. Now, what do they have to tell them to their children if they are doing the same? So it's very crucial that you as parents have to set certain standards for your children. Unless you do that, you are answerable to them. And last but not least, you must teach your children to respect elders, cultivate the values which are required to be there. And last, extremely and exceedingly crucial, is that the children must be self-accountable. Nowhere a child should be thinking like this, that I can do anything and I can get away with anything. No, you cannot. The same thing applies for adults. If you live in a society, you have to abide by certain standards. Those standards are set by the society. We do it for our own good. Now, if you look into the social chaos which is pervading now, it's only because we are absolutely let loose. We are not being able to come to terms with how to lead a proper life. A good life entails certain things. But all these things that you are doing at this juncture in your life, you reap the benefits when you actually grow up. When you take up a job, get married, settle down in life, raise a family, then only you are going to understand the impact of those good things that you have learned all over those years, which you have self-cultivated, which you have learned from your parents, and thus you have changed yourself. So in order to transform the kids and our society, we must ensure that the children have the right direction, right mentoring, and they have a stability, and they have a rock solid ground below their feet. Otherwise, you are definitely going to fumble and definitely going to have stumbling blocks, which would be very difficult to overcome. So that much for this particular episode. I'll come back with something more interesting in my later episodes. Thank you.